Graham Linehan or Angela Raynor? Who do you have sympathy with? Perhaps both, perhaps neither. Let's go here then. He was arrested by five armed officers at Heathrow. People have made much of that, but of course officers are often armed at Heathrow. Unfortunately, that is a necessary precaution. But 5 of them? And why did they nab him when he came off the plane? Couldn't they have asked him to attend an interview or whatever? Hardly a flight risk, I would have said. And so this has raised in of itself quite a few eyebrows. Then, on Wednesday, September 3rd, the Met Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, said of Linehan's arrest that he understood the concern caused by such incidents given differing perspectives on the balance between free speech and the risks of inciting violence in the real world. And part of the discussion right now is that many people don't think that really was inciting anything, and it is important for people to be able to express their opinion, even if it is unpopular or indeed popular. The Met Chief's comments came just hours after Labour Health Secretary Wes, waking up and smelling the coffee streeting, said that the UK government needs to look at whether police are getting the balance right. And I hope by that he meant they're not. But politicians are, well, welcome to the party, beginning to notice how people are feeling in the country at long last. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, meanwhile, said that police should focus on the most serious issues, like knife crime and violence, and that he would always defend the right to free speech. Well, again, can you take seriously what Keir says, given the amount of flip-flopping that he does? However, at this point in time, because of course he's recently been rejigging things and is keen to stay in power, he is at least making the right noises as far as quite a few people are concerned, not necessarily everyone. Then, why are we talking about free speech now? Well, it's the latest high-profile case to come under scrutiny in the public debate over what constitutes free speech. The comedian had written, and this is where we get down to it, in an ex-post, ex-Twitter, that it was a violent, abusive act for a trans-identified male to be in a female-only space, make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls, he wrote. And this is where I do believe we have to apply a modicum of common sense. In my opinion, this was obviously a joke. Note also that what he says, whether you agree with him or not, he says call the cops, call the police. The right thing to do if something bad is happening, and not go and resort to violence. And also the violence he describes it's meant to be cartoonish. It is cartoonish. He's making a joke. Is it offensive to some people? No doubt it is. But does that warrant what happened to him? That creep towards totalitarianism, and make no mistake, that's what this is, a creep towards it, which is why Mark Rowley has said quite correctly, this isn't the way we're meant to be policing, it's by consent. If we lose the public, if they think this is what we're going to be doing when we can't tackle the serious stuff, then we're in big trouble as a society. So people do recognise that creep towards, in essence, a type of madness, a totalitarian madness. So even if you disagree vehemently with what he said, I hope that people can understand why this approach is wrong. And the other reason I believe it's wrong is because two things. It sort of can, in some people's minds, link this outrageous thing that happened to in my opinion, Graham Linehan, an outrageous thing with trans people. And it can increase division. We should be humanizing. We should be engaging. We should be looking towards, okay, how do we open these conversations up? And it may actually make a lot of trans people feel vulnerable. So it's so heavy-handed. It's the wrong way to do it, in my opinion. Again, on so many levels. Then let's skip. We'll come back to Graham Linehan shortly, but we need to look at Angela, because I guess I've given the game away. I think that Graham deserves some sympathy. I don't always agree with everything that he writes. Who would? I'm not sure. I would have written that. In fact, I wouldn't have written that. It just, it's like, I don't know. I would defend your right to write it, but it just isn't me. But I have sympathy with the situation that he finds himself in. Angela, do I sympathise? Well, what has she done? So she admits underpaying tax on her whole flat as the PM backs her for the moment. Let's hear what she's got to say in this interview. Just a short snippet.
I relied on that legal advice that I received that said that I was liable to pay the standard stamp duty. Subsequently to that, with all of the media reports that have been coming out, I took expert counsel advice on all of my affairs to ensure that everything was done proper. And that expert counsel said that the advice that I received was inaccurate because of the trust. I don't own the property, that is true. I only own one property that is mortgaged, like most people. But because of the nature of the trust that was set up by the court, that I would be liable to pay the additional stamp duty. As soon as I knew that that was the case, I have alerted and referred myself to the independent advisor on the ministerial code to ensure that they can look transparently at what's happened, and also contacted HMRC to say that there is additional tax owing on this and that I'm prepared to pay that and fully comply with the HMRC as well.
Now, I do have some sympathy with her, and I certainly have criticised Keir and his government, his leadership team, including Angela Raynor, but I wouldn't like to lose sight of the fact that we have to also be aware of the human element in there. And in that interview, she was obviously upset. A lot of it was about protecting her son, and I understand that, and that is admirable. And I don't envy her position, but I think that one of the issues in there is not only the initial obfuscation, it's also that she has been, over the years, Labour's attack dog. And holier than now, like a lot of them have been, all of them have been, and now we see how flawed they are. So sympathy, but, and I guess as people have said, it may be legal, but was it moral? And is it tax evasion or is it tax avoidance? It looks like avoidance, but it's not a good look. Let's listen here. Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Rapidly corrected, might have been forgivable even for somebody in the heart of government. But instead of that, there's been obfuscation. There has been an effort to cover up. We've even been told that she couldn't say what had happened because of a court order. Now, this was prize nonsense because Angela Raynor is a Member of Parliament, and Members of Parliament benefit from the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, 1689, what does it say? It says that no court outside Parliament may question any proceedings in Parliament. This gives Members of Parliament an absolute right of free speech, which no other court can override. So whatever some court said, she could have made a personal state in Parliament to set out the picture, to make things clear. She chose not to. That was a voluntary choice. She didn't want to come clean, and now we know perhaps why, because the tax system wasn't as good as it ought to have been. And so you've gone from, and this so often happens in politics, an honest mistake leading to a political row, leading to a cover-up, which then ultimately leads to a resignation.
Jacob Rees-Mogg elegantly, eloquently, gracefully puts the boot in. And yeah, I'm sure what he says is accurate. He would know. So she could have said something. But one of the big problems for her is the fact that, well, what have we heard from Labour for years? And Angela was the attack dog. Listen to this.
One rule for them, another rule for us. And you know what? It matters because when they use the public purse as a personal cash point, we literally all pay the bill.
Just like people are paying the bills for the Westminster apartment, or however one would describe it. So that's why I have sympathy to a point, for her as a mum, as an individual. But in terms of politically, it has also been something that we've seen again and again from Labour, the hypocrisy from the get-go, which is why they're so desperately unpopular. Well, one of the reasons. Let's go here, and it's like change attack back to obviously this is Nigel Farage, try and get that pronunciation right, and he's speaking to Congress in the US. He's out there.
Sentenced to 31 months in prison. She's now out, having served 40% of the time. I wanted to bring her with me today as living proof of what can go wrong. Sadly, the restrictions that have been put on her banned her from making the trip, which is a very, very great shame. And we, of course, have the extraordinary events that we understood yesterday of Graham Linehan, the comedic writer, and he put out some tweets months ago when he was in Arizona, and months later he arrives at Heathrow Airport to be met by 5 armed police. Armed police, not a big deal in the USA, a very big deal in the United Kingdom. 5 of them. And he was arrested and taken away for questioning. He's not even a British citizen. He's an Irish citizen. This could happen to any American man or woman that goes to Heathrow that has said things online that the British government and British police don't like.
Yeah, now what he was talking about at the start, if he hadn't guessed already, was Lucy Connolly, and obviously Nigel Farage was trying to get her to come out, but she couldn't because of restrictions. And this was, the case of someone being jailed for over a year, which was, in the opinion of many people, extremely harsh for something that she tweeted or X'd, whatever it's called, online, and then deleted. And so you've got that case. And of course, now you've got Graham Linehan. And if you note what Nigel Farage said, it was from months ago. And he's just getting, picked up on it now. And as some people suggest, because somebody somewhere or more than one person complained. And that's scary, isn't it? Isn't it just the whole situation scary? Again, whether you agree with what he wrote or not, I think many people would agree that he should be able to write it, because when you look at it in context, as I've said, it wasn't inciting violence at all. It was obviously a joke. And if humour goes, if the ability to take the mickey out of things, to poke fun at various institutions and individuals disappears, then we're in real big trouble, because humour, well, just think of the court jester. They could say things that no one else could say. And in some ways allows the person in charge to laugh at themselves. It pricks the pomposity. It releases some of the pressure in the court, or in this case, in the country. I mentioned the legality of this. So here we have Sam Armstrong, who is from the Free Speech Union. Interesting to listen to his opinion, in my opinion.
The law on this is really, really very clear. They arrested him under Section 29B on suspicion of stirring up hatred against people on the basis of a sexual orientation. What, trans isn't a sexual orientation. Gay people find that offensive. Lesbian people find that offensive. A good deal of bisexual people find that offensive. The police didn't do their homework. They didn't get it right. They didn't try and apply proportionality. They got wind of a complaint from social media and they went full-blown Stasi. And that is offensive not just to Mr. Linehan, it's offensive to everybody in London, myself included, who has been the victim of a serious crime, bags nicked, phones nicked, burglaries, all the rest of it, who has waited and waited and waited and waited and never seen hide nor hair of a constable, despite the fact that we've got good evidence, massive evidence, CCTV and all the rest of it. The police have got all the resources when they need it, and none, absolutely none, when they're not interested. And when are they not interested? When it's the crime that affects you, me, anyone listening to this.
And, well, he obviously gives his legal opinion, which is interesting, and I think makes a really good point. Again, the temperature of the nation, how people are feeling. If the police are busy, 5 officers picking someone up from a plane from a tweet that was months ago that a lot of people don't think incites anything. You might not agree with the humour. You might find it, as I've suggested before, distasteful, and I understand that. But when you then weigh that up against limited resources, which the police have, if you think then about the people in the police and the people in charge, what did they want to be doing? What did they want to be doing? That? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. There are a lot of good people in the police force up and down the country, and of course including therefore the Met, who want to get stuck in about the more serious stuff and make everything safer. And you could argue, well, that didn't make it safer because it was an online thing. But I think if you're going to put your resources somewhere, wouldn't it be better, so for example, to stop young kids getting killed by each other? Anyway, that is my opinion on that. Let's go here and look at how this is viewed by other people. So this is Sky News Australia, and we're going to hear in a moment from, well, let's just play it.
Linehan was arrested at Heathrow Airport on Monday. What was his crime? It was posting on social media. So when he got off the plane, he was met by 5 armed police officers who told him he was being arrested over 3 posts on X where he criticised trans activists. He's now been banned from X, but this is absolutely insane. We also know, of course, that we've spoken about before, this is not an isolated incident in the UK.
No, absolutely not.
So you see here, just in case it's not obvious, this is James Billett from Unheard. He's the editor there. Now listen to what he's got to say, because I think this is important. These are clues about how, we're being seen, this country, by others.
In fact, it's the first of many, the last of many. We've had incidents where people have gone to jail over memes being shared on a private WhatsApp group. We've had police investigations into the same subject. And Linehan himself, this is not the first time he's had a police investigation or a police visit. This is a man who has lost his livelihood, his wife, and a lot of his friends from standing up for this cause. And it's just a horrible, horrible state of affairs in Britain at the moment, where you're right, free speech, even if it's not dead, is very much on life support. When the fact you need 5 armed police officers to meet a comedic writer for a few offensive tweets just goes to show exactly where this country is heading. And we're now in a place where we do have a real problem with asylum seekers and overflow of illegal immigrants. Why are the resources not being directed in that direction rather than going towards a few mean tweets? It beggars belief.
And again, and note the locations. So he's speaking from, it would seem, New York. And people are looking at this country and genuinely, aghast, confused, befuddled, open-mouthed. What are you doing? And that's important, because it is easy to become inured to all of this, to just think, well, this is just the way things should be these days. And it is not to say that what Graham Linehan wrote, wasn't offensive. No doubt would be offensive to some people. But was that a proportional response? I think this is what this is all about. So, to finish off, I've some sympathy for Angela, the individual, the mum, absolutely. The politician, not so much. Graham Linehan, wished he hadn't written it, but I support his right to do so. And so, because of the heavy-handed way in which he's been treated, I have a lot of sympathy for him. What do you think about all of this?